Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana ki jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Shri Maya Pradam ki jai. Ganga Mai ki jai. Jamuna Mai ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Tulsi Maharani ki jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki jai. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru Shri Gauranga. Whoa. Just like to begin by offering my compliments to the devotees who make the garlands. They make absolutely wonderful garlands here for Radha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayat Nastapareshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtakir. So it is our hope and prayer that by regular attending these classes on the Bhāgavatam, and by getting the mercy of Srila Vyasadeva, the previous Acharyas, Srila Prabhupada, that all the inauspicious junk in our heart will be destroyed and we'll be able to engage in pure loving devotional service. So today we are on the 4th canto of Śrimad Bhāgavatam, the 7th chapter, text 54, the sacrifice performed by Daksha. Trayanameka bhavanam yona pasyati vaiputam sarva bhutatmanam brahma sa shantim adhigacchati trayanameka bhavanam yona pashyati vaibhidam sarva bhutatmanam brahman sa shantim adhigacchati trayanameka bhavanam Yo na pashyati vaibhidam sarva bhutatmanam brahman sa shantim adhigacchati. Next, please. Trayanamekavavanam yo na pashyati vaibhidam sarva bhutatmanam brahman sa shantim adhigacchati. Trayanamekavavanam yo na pashyati vaibhidam sarva bhutatmanam brahman shashantim adhigacchati. Trayanamekavavanam yo na pashyati vaibhidam sarva bhutatmanam brahma shashantim adhigacchati. Trayanamekavavanam yo na pashyati vaibhidam sarva bhutatmanam brahman sa shantim adhigacchati. Trayanam of the three. Ekabhavanam, having one nature. Yaha, who? Na pashyati, does not see. Vai, certainly. Bidam, separateness. Sarvabhuta Atmanam, of the supersoul of all living beings, entities. Brahman, O Daksha. Saha, he. Shantim, peace. Adhigacchati, realizes. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada. The Lord continued, one who does not consider Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, or the living entities in general to be separate from the Supreme, and who knows Brahman, actually realizes peace. Others do not. Please repeat. The Lord continued. One who does not consider Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, or the living entities in general to be separate from the Supreme, and who knows Brahman, actually realizes peace. Others do not. Purport. Two words are very significant in this verse. Trayanam indicates three, namely Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Lord Vishnu. Bidam means different. They are three, and therefore they are separate. But at the same time they are one. This is the philosophy of simultaneous oneness and difference, which is called Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva. The example given in the Brahma Samhita is that milk and yogurt are simultaneously one and different. Both are milk, but the yogurt has become changed. In order to achieve real peace, one should see everything and every living entity, including Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, as non-different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No one is independent. Every one of us is an expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This accounts for unity in diversity. There are diverse manifestations, but at the same time they are one in Vishnu. Everything is an expansion of Vishnu's energy. Amagyanatimmarandasya jananjana shalakaya chakshruunmilitam jena tasmai shri guruve namaha. Mukam karoti vachalam bhangam langayate girim yat kripatam maham vande shri gurum dinataranam vanchakalpatrivistya kripasindhu vyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So Srila Prabhupada's talking in this verse about the philosophy of Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva. And that is the great contribution of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He so nicely explained that, and by doing that, dissolved a lot of the controversy and uncertainty about the position of God. So it's how every living entity is simultaneously one and different from the Lord. So we see that that's actually an extremely hard concept to grasp. We just take it for granted. However, in practical application, we don't always do that well. And we see that various theological understandings are grappling at that. So there's traditions that see the absolute as one person. However, sometimes they grapple with the inherent value of the living entities. So you see over history, in some of those traditions, sometimes only men had souls, not women. Or only humans, not animals or aquatics or insects or plants. So they got the one side, but not the other. And then there's other traditions where the absolute doesn't have that form, that personal form. And it's thought that if we want to attain perfection, that we need to give up a form. So and sometimes, in fact, even our complete identity, and just, merge into the never-ending spiritual light. I remember when I first started being inquisitive about spirituality, we came across impersonal books, and they told me that God was a white light. And previously I'd been an atheist because somehow or other the Christian tradition that I'd been introduced to when I was very young, I had a hard time understanding how if you didn't follow it, you'd go to hell forever. And I thought, even my mom's not that bad, she's not that hard on me. So how can God be that hard on you? So it was hard for me. So then I thought, God's actually a white light. I remember telling your sister that one time. I finally found out what God is. It's a white light. She goes, okay. She didn't buy it. So somehow or other, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, came in contact with his books, and then I found out, exactly who God is, where he lives, what his address is, how we connect with him, and how we are intimately connected. So we know there's also other traditions which consider perhaps that perfection is just to annihilate our existence. So we have, the Christian traditions, the impersonalist Mayavadi traditions, we have the Buddhist traditions. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he came to teach us that our essence is, in fact, very similar to that of the Supreme Absolute Truth. That it's similar, but to a lesser degree. So Srila Prabhupada used to compare it to salt. The amount of salt, there is salt in a drop of water, and there's salt in the big ocean. It's just that the amount of salt is quite different. So we have the same quality as God, but we're different in quantity. And all the other living beings are inherently equal to one another. So Brahma, Shiva, the demigods here in this part of your readings in the Bhāgavatam, they've all been offering prayers. And we see that even Daksha, he's been offering prayers that we're all of the same quality and that each and every living entity deserves respect. And here in this verse, these last few verses, for the sake of illustration, it's Lord Vishnu talking here. He's even generalizing himself in that broad category, that we're all salty. And then he declared in the Bhagavad Gita that if we can understand and apply that, we're all pundits. We're greatly knowledgeable souls. Pandita Samadarshina. Vidya Vinaya Sampane Brahmanika Vihastini Suni Chaiva Sapakija Pandita Samadarshina. That we can understand, the elephant has a soul, the Brahman has a soul, other living entities, whatever their caste or creed, nationality, they're all inherently equal in value. And that's our theoretical understanding. And that's a very great beginning. However, Krishna is expecting vigyan, application in our everyday life. We don't get to decide who's better than or less than us. That's an ontological fact, that every spirit soul has that equality. So I don't get to decide that I'm better than you, or you're better than me and I should respect you. We should respect everyone. So that's a fundamental concept, not only for understanding God, it's also necessary for understanding the relationship between all living beings. And this has been so graphically illustrated in this pastime that's being told in these chapters concerning Daksha's previous activities. We see that previously Daksha, he didn't have that respect for even Brahma, his father. What to speak of Shiva, his son-in-law. We see that there's chapters describing how when he was not able to understand this Pandita Samadarshinaha, it was chaos. And in fact, that misunderstanding of Daksha led him to those feelings of superiority over Shiva. And when he did that, he committed this great offense to him. So much so that his daughter was so upset that she self-immolated, committed suicide. That caused great heartbreak for Lord Shiva. And so his followers came to, retaliate. Even though Shiva didn't mind that he was disrespected. He said, okay, I know who I am. It doesn't matter if you respect me. I know who I am. That's a big learning. Somebody can say something to you. You can get all upset about it. But we need to know that anybody can make up anything about us at any time. And I'm still a spirit soul, part and parcel of Krishna, and worthy of engaging in devotional service. Maybe I can correct a behavior, but I am still part and parcel of Krishna. And I can add value to my life by engaging in devotional service and add value to other people's life by engaging in devotional service. And nothing can change that. So Shiva understood that. He wasn't bothered. However, when Sati committed suicide, the followers of Lord Shiva said, okay, this is just, too much. And so, all hell broke loose, as they say. And so Daksha actually was killed. However, by the mercy of Lord Shiva, he was brought back to consciousness, but given a goat's head. And we see that even though he had the goat's head, he still had his same personality. So that shows us that we are different than our body. That soul is there. I remember it was in the 70s and they started the first heart transplants. And so the devotees were asking Srila Prabhupada, so what happens with the soul when they get a new heart? Because we understand that the soul is residing in the region of the heart. So devotees said, well, a new heart goes in. Is a new soul coming in? And Srila Prabhupada said, no. It's just like previously I was sitting on that bench, and then you provided me with a new chair. So he says, just like I got up and I switched seats. So the soul just changed seats within the same body. So we see that Daksha, he's able to have his same soul. However, by the mercy of Lord Shiva, he was able to switch his consciousness from that grandiose position of thinking that he's better to seeing that I'm no better than Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva is deserving my respect. So on one hand, we're seeing all on the same platform, and in addition, we are able to offer respects because of the natural value of another living entity. So here Lord Vishnu is saying that if we don't see that same as position, we're going to blow it in our spiritual advancement and in our interactions with other living entities. Because, like I was saying, we don't get to decide who's better and who's less. That's already decided by Krishna, that we're all equal. So some of us, all of us, have been conditioned by our sojourn in this material world. And specifically in this life, we're very conditioned by what's gone on for us as we've been growing up. And so sometimes we are conditioned to be very critical of ourselves. And often when we're very critical of ourselves, we can be very critical of others. And sometimes that's because when we've grown up, we've always been told, if you don't do it like this, you're not good. If you don't do it like that, you're not good. And so we do everything like everybody else wants so that we'll be perceived to have value. So it's not wrong to take good advice. It's just that our self-value doesn't depend upon how others view our behaviors and value. Our value stays consistent. And we need to understand, by associating with others, what is the true value in different behaviors. And if we don't have that introspection to be able to decide that, we are not going to be able to choose in every circumstance the best behaviors and actions to take. So like I was saying last night, Krishna gives us that independence to choose how to behave, because only by choice can we develop love, and even love and affection for other living entities is by that choice. So when we choose to follow personalities who can direct us in the right direction, we have chosen to make a good choice. And there's nothing wrong with, receiving instructions from somebody else and following them, while understanding that we always have inherent value, and we can utilize those instructions to fit our unique circumstances in every situation. Because when we become rote followers, we don't know how to apply everything in different situations. So we want to understand that simultaneously one and difference, so that we can apply the Vaishnava philosophy in our lives and have that full respect for others, so we can receive the right instructions and share the right instructions in the right mood so that people can actually utilize it. So, because we tend to view things with our historically colored glasses, like what happened to me before, or someone said this or that, we tend to view things with our tinted glasses, our conditioned self. So even when we come to hear the absolute truth, sometimes we read the pages of Bhāgavatam with our history-colored glasses, and we don't perceive it with that true, inherent achintya beta beta tattva value. And we may misinterpret the scriptures to either justify or solidify our wrong views, or to give us some mistaken view of how we read the scriptures. That's why it's very important to associate with persons who really understand this Achintya Beta Beta philosophy and can share it with us in a way that we can advance nicely in spiritual life. And we can imbibe, their value and in turn quickly advance in spiritual life by taking on the understanding and inherent value of that other person. So we see that Srila Prabhupada, he honestly appreciated everyone. Last time we were in this area, we went to the opening of the Dasi temple, the new temple. And after that, it was Uttama Prabhu's birthday, the car salesman, Uttama, not the DVC. And he was sharing with us the story of how when he got initiated, I think he was initiated by Srila Prabhupada by letter. I forget the exact details, but part of the story that I want to tell is that he was looking after Tulsi Devi at that time, and so he sent Srila Prabhupada some Maha Tulsi leaves. Something very insignificant. He didn't have a lot of money, he didn't have great gifts to offer. And so he sent from his heart these Tulsi leaves because he was very grateful for the service of worshiping Tulsi Devi. So Srila Prabhupada wrote him back profusely thanking him for those few little teeny Tulsi leaves. And that impacts his life today. So it's hard not to be moved by the gratitude that Srila Prabhupada had for all of us. And so, in turn, we naturally have great gratitude for him. And so we see that that's the value of hanging out with self-realized souls. And if you hang out with me long enough, you'll start crying over every little thing too. So forgive me, but that's just the way I am. So we see that there's so much to be learned in this part of the Bhāgavatam. How when we lose that same as Achintya Veda Veda Tattva conception of life, we can get into bad situations. So Daksha, he had that grandiosity that somehow or other, I'm better than Lord Shiva because I'm his father-in-law. Now, I personally know that I learned so many things from my son-in-law. One of the things that I learned from my son-in-law was he doesn't get bothered
when things go wrong. In fact, he gets enlivened. Ooh, something went wrong here. An obstacle. I can figure it out and how to get over it. So we see that there's value in every living entity. Previously, oh, this isn't going well, we'll just forget it, No, I learned, hey, there's ways around this. So we see from every living entity, there's something we can learn. So Daksha, he's somehow or other thinking that, I'm kind of the master of this part of the world, or I don't know, what was his position, Daksha? What was his theoretical job description? He's a what? Yeah, it's Prajapati, but that gave him a lot of influence and governance. And so he's doing these sacrifices. And he is taken his position a little bit, it's gone to his head, as we would say. And so when he sees Shiva not standing up, just because he's, in ecstasy meditating on the Supreme Lord, he starts to get offended. Why isn't he seeing my greatness? And when we get out of that position of Achintya Beta Tattva, where we understand the inherent value of everyone, we can commit some very grave mistakes. And when we when somehow or other things don't go the way we want, we can get angry. Srila Prabhupada said that we get angry in the absence of sense gratification. So that means when things don't go our way. So things weren't going the way that Daksha wanted. He wanted this respect. And so when he didn't get that respect, because he couldn't understand that inherent value of everyone, this anger starts boiling up in him. And when the anger boils up in any one of us, that disconnects us from our higher self, just like I was explaining last night. And when we lose track of our higher self, we lose track of that understanding that we're all of value. And it completely clouds our intelligence. So, they say that, anger covers our intelligence. It's so true. We see that with Daksha. And it was, I thought, very prophetic that, his anger so much got the best of him, and he acted so heinously that Lord Shiva gave him the head of a goat. You're not using your brain and your head in a very good way. Maybe you need a transplant here. So he got the head of a goat. So that's a very practical learning. How we need to always stay in that Achintya Beta Tattva position. Otherwise, we're not going to act positively and properly with other living entities. And that's going to get us in big trouble. We see conversely when Jadabharata, he was somehow or other conscripted to carry the palanquin of Maharaj Rahugana. And he had such a vision of sameness that when ants would get in the path, he was thinking, there is another spirit soul. I need to walk around it. It has a right to walk on this path too. It is a living entity, and I need to walk around these ants. When he did that, he's not walking in step with the other palanquin carriers. And so the ride was getting pretty bumpy for Maharaj Rahugana. And after a while, he started to get upset because my senses aren't being gratified. This is annoying. So he jumps off his chariot. I don't know if he jumped off, his palanquin. And he starts saucing out Jadbharata. How are you? Who do you think you are to, give me a bumpy ride? What gives you that right? Bhāgavatam describes that Jadbharata, he felt a wave of dissatisfaction, a little wave, just a little wave, a little sine wave of dissatisfaction. Because it's a little bit jarring, someone starts yelling at you, telling you you're lower than the whatever he told him. it hurts. However, when we have our inherent knowledge that we have value, when somebody splats some insult at us, it splats, we think, okay, is there some truth in this or is there not? Is there something I need to improve? Is there nothing I need to improve? They're just having a bad day. How do I take this? Because I have my inherent value and I need to learn from this. So Jad Bharat, he gets this little, it hurts. But hey, I'm a pure spirit soul, servant of Krishna. And you know what, Maharaj? You are too. And I can tell you how you are an eternal servant of Krishna. And the king started listening to this and he realized, wow, this is a self-realized soul and I need to take some instruction from him. And I'm so fortunate that this man came in my life. So this Achinta Bheda Bheda philosophy, it's not just some pie-in-the-sky philosophy. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he brought this philosophy to help us in our everyday life understand how to see our inherent value as spirit souls so that we can engage in our ontological position of being the servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna. And we will know how to act in every situation. So I'm going to end here and to see if anybody has any comments on this. Mm-hmm. Do you want to just hang on for a sec, because I think there's online listeners and I'm sure you have something valuable to say that they will want to hear. Okay, well, I can share. I don't know. They have a plan. Or you can share, I can share. Okay.
In retrospect, trying to understand spirituality before we found Srila Prabhupada's books, I think I felt like a dog chasing its tail. It was extremely frustrating, confusing, just exasperating. And finding Prabhupada's books and hearing Achinta Bheda being explained, it was like this huge relief. It was such a simple explanation that you simply have to accept that it's inconceivable. It's such an amazing thing. And it's like, I think we're so blessed by Srila Prabhupada that he's brought that to us.
Mm-hmm. I concur and I agree.
There's an intellectual understanding that we can have of this, but that doesn't really necessarily implant the values.
Yeah.
So there's Sangha, Vaishnavas, but also coupled with strong sadhana practices and service. We're chanting Hare Krishna, please Krishna, engage me in your service.
Yeah.
And then we do it. And then it's an upward spiral of realization.
Yeah.
And that's the symptom of someone who's advancing in Krishna consciousness. The Madhyama, he sees, with love, these other living entities, and he wants to help them. He becomes a preacher. And, then the Uttama goes even beyond that, and he just sees Krishna everywhere.
Right.
But that's the point. It's not just an intellectual acceptance, it's something that goes deep in the heart. And that's what can really change us, coupled with sadhu sangha and also strong sadhana practices. And then it comes alive for us.
Yeah, such a wonderful process.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you for the class. There was a nice point you had about if you hang around someone who's self-realized, you get their qualities. I wanted you to speak more on that. And if you don't have someone at that self-realized stage around you, are you how far can you go, or will you be checked at whatever level the people around you are at?
We have Srila Prabhupada present in the book Bhāgavatam, so we always have the association of a self-realized soul. And you probably even carry him around with you all day on your phone. You know, we have our scriptures on our phone. I know I do. So that's there. And you'll see that Srila Prabhupada manifests himself in different ways through other devotees who perhaps aren't completely self-realized, but some little bit of that manifests through. I always found it very interesting in the Ramanuja Sampradaya how Ramanuja was really wanting to take initiation from, getting a senior's moment, what was, Jamunacharya. And he somehow or other got there just after Jamunacharya passed away. And so in order to fully imbibe the teachings of Jamunacharya, he went to see many of his disciples who had specialties in different aspects of the philosophy. So one had a specialty in Ramayana, and he went and studied with him for a while, and one from another. So you can come into in contact with various disciples of Srila Prabhupada, and you can get a little piece of Prabhupada here, and a little piece of Prabhupada there, and a little piece of Prabhupada there, and you can get the whole picture. Also, it's very important, if you want to get the whole picture, to read all of Srila Prabhupada's books. Because Srila Prabhupada has like a theme that goes on, and it's revealed bit by bit. So if you pick and choose, sometimes you gravitate towards the things that confirm your conditionings in the material world. But when you read all of the books and you listen to an array of Prabhupada's lectures, you really do get the whole picture. And you're not going to get stuck by just confirming your conditioning. Because our conditioning leads us to the things that confirm how we're conditioned, because that's familiar. So we start with what's familiar, and then we can link on a little something else, and then we get that, and then we can link on another something else like that, and then we can imbibe the whole philosophy. So it's always available. According to our sincerity, Krishna in the heart sees our sincerity, and he will give us just the right thing at the right moment so that we can get it. And I think that that lack of sincerity can come when we don't realize that sameness position, that I can get it anywhere and I'm valuable. Because you can also, like Daksha, he went to the grandiose, I'm better, but we can go to the less than, where I'm not worthy and I'm a little depressed and I'm not worthy of this teachings and nobody's here to share this with me, and how come I didn't, take birth when Prabhupada was walking by, and, that doesn't help either. Anybody else have a comment? Yes, please. You might have to.
Well, I don't know how to put it. I'm not so good at speaking, but you see, like a lot of us, we misunderstand when it is said that going to hell forever. You see, it's just like the prisoner when they commit crime and as soon as they get out, they commit crime again. So they keep going back in prison, back and forth. Like, a lot of us, we misunderstand it, you see. If we don't take to God consciousness, so we die, we leave the body, we go back again, we still don't take back, we still commit sin, we still don't take to God consciousness. But we keep going, die, come back again, go to hellish planet, go back again, go to hellish. That's what they mean by that. But a lot of us misunderstanding, and we
Take it wrong. Yes, I appreciate that. That was my misunderstanding. So that's the story I was telling myself. That I don't know if I like this, you know. So no, I appreciate that correction. I should have clarified that I'm not saying that that is the entire Christian philosophy. That's just the story I told myself when I heard that.
Yeah, I thought that also. How can we be to hell forever when I was younger?
Yeah.
I mean, but after when you really meditate on it and you get to Srila Prabhupada,
The true understanding,
when
yeah.
you get to Srila Prabhupada teaching, so you really have a clear understanding of going to hell forever. Yes.
She's saying that in some theological traditions, the go to hell forever seems like forever. However, there's always another chance. And
It's like the prisoner, a criminal. They go to prison, so
Like
they
prison.
commit sin, they commit crime, and then as soon as they come out of prison, they commit crime again. So they keep going back and forth, prison out. So it's like being prison forever. They coming out, they commit crime, then they do it again.
Because you haven't changed your consciousness, so you're still in that hellish
Yes,
consciousness.
if you don't take to God back to God consciousness, you will go to hell forever. It's like the prisoner commit crime. If he don't stop committing crime, so he will go back to prison. It seems like it will be in prison forever.
Right.
Because he keep coming out, going back
Because you haven't
to prison.
changed your criminal
Yes,
mentality.
That's what they
Yeah.
mean.
Prabhu, would you like to make a comment there? Thank you, Mataji.
Krishna, thank you for the presentation. Most of us came out of the Judeo-Christian background and where we heard that, yes. They say, accept Christ and you will have eternal life. Otherwise, you'll go to hell eternally. So what's the difference? If you're burning in hell eternally, that means you're eternal. Anything that can burn eternally means it's not really burning. That's what I tell them. Because if you burn something, it burns and it's gone. But if you're burning eternally, that means it's not really burning, which is actually the case. On the subtle platform, when you go to the hellish planets, you feel like you're burning, but the soul doesn't actually burn. Krishna establishes that in the second chapter. You can't burn it, you can't wither it, you can't wet it. So that means you're actually not burning. Because nothing can burn eternally. If it's burning, it's going to burn up and go away. And then they go, oh, they don't understand. And that's exactly what Prabhupada is saying. They're presenting a partial philosophy. They don't have clear understanding. And that's what attracted me to Prabhupada's books, because it was very clear. And Prabhupada himself says that the Vedic literature is exacting, it's concise, it's voluminous. And those three things are there. It's exacting. You won't find a difference between a definition of the soul in one sampradaya and another sampradaya. They may worship God in a different form, Sita Ram, or Lakshmi Narayan, or Radha Krishna as we do, but the philosophy is exacting.
Thank you very much. I think John Mostamy would like to add a little something.
You were talking about sincerity, and I think that was in reference to like the Phillips question of, really how to understand this, and we may not be in the association of like liberated souls or whatever, but the sincerity, from my understanding, of what Prabhupada emphasized, like one of my favorite references is Madhya Lila 22. This is Sanatan Shiksha, verse 113. It's easy to remember because it's a real lucky verse. And this is Smartavya sadatam Vishnur Vishmartavyo najatuchit Sarve vidhi nasheda shur etayoreva kinkara. One should always remember Krishna and one should never forget him. All the rules and regulations are simply servants of these two principles. And then in the purport, Prabhupada says if we want to remember Krishna, we need to chant Hare Krishna. And then 3 or 4 sentences later, he says, of all the instructions of the spiritual master, the chanting of 16 rounds is the most essential. So that's the foundation for our realization. So this is an expression of our sincerity that we put this as our highest priority in life. You know, we don't eat a huge meal before we take sleep at night, so we don't practice dive bomb or japa, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. You know, we just stay focused. And one of the formulas that Srila Prabhupada gave that seems to really work, and that is in 1975, all the book distributors in North America converged in the Atlanta temple to get Srila Prabhupada's darshan, hoping for the magic formula to increase book distribution. And Savas Prabhu asked Srila Prabhupada a question in that, during the darshan with Prabhupada. He said, Srila Prabhupada, how can we increase our desire to distribute your books? And then Prabhupada went into a prolonged silence and stared at the ceiling, and everyone was just like, what's, you know, they're just so much eager to hear. And then Prabhupada said, excuse me, if you really want to increase book distribution, he's looking at this ceiling, if you really want to increase book distribution, if you really want to increase book distribution, you will chant all of your rounds without stopping. So this became the magic formula for the book distributors. And when I joined in 77, all the book distributors in New York, and I think pretty much all over the country, got up at 2 a.m. And they, they chanted all their rounds, got a lot of them done before Mangal Artik. They finished before Darshan Artik, did some reading, and then they blasted off in Yoga Maya and did huge with book distribution. And there's examples. I asked Savas Prabhu 2 GBC meetings ago in Mayapur, is this why everyone got, the question you asked of Prabhupada, is this why everyone got up at 2, all the book distributors got up at 2, and Savas said, I don't know about everybody else, but that's what I did. But it's amazing, and then he just kept the ball rolling for years and years and years. Same thing with Vaisheshika Prabhu, just so deep the realizations that came because of that standard that Srila Prabhupada set, and giving this as the highest priority in our lives. And so, anyway, that's my comment.
I can attest that the formula does work. I don't get up at 2, but I have my artik a little later, so I chant all my rounds, and then I have artik, and then I read. So the formula definitely works. Yeah.
No, it's good to just have the intense focus and really give your heart to the holy name.
Because that's when we connect with Krishna, and we get that inspiration, and we feel that gratitude. And then we want to automatically share because of that, gratitude of that experience of connecting with Krishna. Yeah. And we have our gratitude for being able to connect with Śrimad Bhāgavatam. Śrimad Bhāgavatam ki jai, Sadhu Sangha ki jai.